Dear members, dear friends, dear partners, dear colleagues, thank you very much to join our web conference of today. The Belgian-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce decided to produce already the second online events on the topic of the human resources with our members and also experts in the same time. I will present them one by one shortly. We have, of course, our president of the chamber, but not only, but also the CEO of one of the largest Belgian logistics company active in Russia and former USSR countries. We have Christian Tegethoff from the CT Executive Search with a big experience, especially on the Russian labor market, but not only Russian, but also European one. We have Erzhena Kharmaeva from our member company Juralink, specialized on legal issues, but also which concerns the work permits, the situation with the foreigners in Russia, and also Philippe Borremans and his colleague. Philippe will present his colleague on the same time, maybe.
Good morning, everybody.
I know
and my colleague Jimbo Zeng.
Voilà. I forgot the family name. Huh?
Not easy. Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we will start. I will let the floor immediately.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Amal Pandos, and I'm using the computer of my assistant Nadine.
Thank you very much. May I just ask all of you, please, to keep the microphone muted during the speech of our speakers, and then we will pass to the Q&A session, and I believe you will share your experience, your situation of today. Stefan, please, I leave you the floor.
Okay, thanks Oleg for the introduction, and thanks for all people joining here today. For me, it's a very, very interesting topic. Why? And I see some other people also in the service industry. We are a logistics company. We don't have assets, so our biggest asset is people. And in today's market, people play a more and more important role on the one hand. The other hand, it's also, we have lack of labor resources also, so they become more scarce to get. So that's for me very important topic personally. Secondly, I think even if you work, I don't know, if you make smartphones, you're a product company, you still need people to develop and to be creative in making the phone. If you are an airline company, you can buy new airplanes, you can give a good service in food, but still you have people who do the stewards, the pilots. So people are in everybody's business. It's important and becoming more important. And I would like to share only one small thing, 1 minute. And secondly, I want to like to share a problem I have also. And at the end of the session, if you can help me solving my problem, I will be very happy or give your opinion. But first of all, towards Ahlers, we call, if we hire people, we call it, we have a black coffee principle. If you hire people, we say, if you have a black coffee, you put milk inside. So you have coffee with milk, you can put coffee in again, it will never be black again. So the moment you make a compromise, you lose. And I think for us as a company in hiring people, we never make a compromise. We have vacancies open for more than a year. But if you start, oh, but it's very urgent function, we need this person, we're going to make a compromise. After 6 months, you said, oh, we need to adapt a little bit. We need to give the person maybe a second chance. We need to assist the person because it's not fulfilling all the needs. And 1 year later, you decide, oh, maybe you should replace the person. But in the meantime, you lost 1 year. Maybe the right candidate was available, but you didn't need him. So my advice, and that's something we use in our company very rigid, is that don't make compromise in hiring people. And then the second point, I would like to share my problem with you. No, I have many problems, but I will share only one for this seminar.
Recording in progress.
Yes. Right. I hear some noise. Like I said, in Russia we have a lot of warehousing activities. We have blue collars, and today's market situation in Russia is that the blue collars, a lot of them were like immigrants. They went back because of COVID to their home country, but they don't come back today, or much less as before. And a lot of warehouse workers, they became a courier. Ozone is very popular. All this Yandex delivery, they start to work as a courier. And also these companies needs more and more warehouse workers. And I put an open letter on Monday to a lot of organizations where I also share my problem, is that a courier company today is paying a double salary what I'm paying. Double salaries. Ozone is paying double salary for warehouse workers as we are paying. So for us to keep people, we need to increase salaries, which I cannot charge to my customers, because my customers, they say, yeah, okay, you can increase the salary maybe 10% of the cost 10%, because we know the market is changing, but you cannot increase with 20-30%. I have lack of people. Maybe I increase my salaries, but maybe in 1 year there is less scarcity on labor in the market, so everything goes down again. I cannot say to my people, oh, now we're going to decrease your salaries. It's not really a good way forward. On the other hand, I said to Stefan, but why don't you automate? If you automate, you don't need people. You can replace people by a conveyor or a robot or whatever. But there I need a long-term commitment from my customer. Where I said to my customer, I can help you, but I need a long-term commitment, 5-7 years, because this automation only pays off after 5-7 years. And you need to guarantee that your parameters or pallet or whatever is not changing. Because if it's changed, my automation doesn't work anymore. And because we are a service provider, we don't have any power to the customer. They can change their pallet setup. They can pick big boxes, small boxes, big pallets, small pallets. So I face as a service provider a very, very big problem on labor. How can I get my labor? And how can I make sure I can pay them and still make a profit at the end? Because today the profits are gone because we have increased salaries, the rates for labor, offices, we use agents, labor agents plus 25%, just to pay plus 25% we pay. So how can I involve my customer in the current problem? And what about automation? How can I make sure that the customer is convinced to invest in the long term with the 3PL provider? So this is a bit, I share a bit my problem with the audience. I maybe have a solution, maybe not, but I think it's today also very interesting to listen to the speakers, because Oleg already introduced them. It's about what is the labor market in Russia today, and Christian will tell a lot about that, trends. How can you work with foreign people in Russia? What are on work visas, but also how to work with Russians in Belgium. How can you convince your shareholder or your board in Belgium that in Russia today the salaries are increasing much more than inflation? So there are a lot of things happening on the labor market, and I hope also, like Oleg says, at the end we have half an hour foreseen, I think, for question and answers, but also for discussion. So really, if you have also an idea, if you have also some problem which pops up, or you have a thing you would like to discuss, don't hesitate to do this. And if you have a solution for my problem, I will give you a nice box of chocolates with pleasure from Belgium. So Oleg, that's my introduction.
Thank you, Stefan. As I understood that more you use people remotely today, more Yandex will need courier, and that will increase every time.
No, but I mean, for me, it's a very interesting idea. Today, 1 year and a half, talent left the office, literally, because they went working from home. So if you need to hire talent, why need to hire talent locally? I have now vacancies I put in the market, which our office is in Petersburg, but we put the vacancies in Belarus, I put the vacancies in Ukraine, in Central Asia, in whole Russia. So also hiring talent, why you need to hire somebody locally, let them fly once per month to the office for the week, and that's the rest of the week. The rest of the month, person can work at home. So for me, it's also, like you said, remote working brings also opportunities.
Yeah, but I believe it's like this. I will pass the floor to Christian Tegethoff, the managing director, the founder of CT Executive Search. I will not take your time, Christian, please.
Thanks a lot, Oleg. Yeah, and also, of course, thanks a lot to Stefan. So it is really a pleasure to talk to you. Very briefly, of course. Yeah. So the time is ticking. So I think I have 15, maybe 20 minutes now to talk about HR in Russia. I hope you can see my screen. Does it work? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Perfect. We'll now wait. Try to run it. Okay, perfect. So yeah, in the next 15, 20 minutes, I will basically talk about 3 topics. So the first one will be the Russian HR market as such. Of course, assuming that most of you are connected very closely to Russia, know quite a lot about it, but maybe there's 1 or 2 persons in the audience who don't know so much about Russia yet. Second topic will be current trends, so what is going on now in the Russian HR market. And then the third and closing topic will be the results of joint survey, which we did with the CCLBR late October and early November on HR topics. And I think you will find some of the findings quite surprising. Good. Just 1 or 2 words about myself. So I work for CT Executive Search. As Oleg said rightly, we are a company that is doing executive search with a focus on Russia and the CIS countries, but also on Eastern Europe in a broader sense, and also in the so-called emerging markets. So I will not go into detail here, but you can see it basically on the map. But the company is headquartered here in Moscow. This is where I am also most of my time, basically. I'm also calling from Moscow, so you can consider me basically a local person. Talking about HR market Russia. So if you would ask me, Christian, what makes the Russian HR market special if you compare to other countries? I would point at a few figures, basically. So one figure that springs into the eye, you see it on the right-hand side, is the unemployment figure, which is at a 4.6% now as we are speaking. It's maybe a bit surprising that this figure moved hardly also last year when we had the whole impact of the Corona crisis. So you can then ask, what does this figure really show? So in Russia, we can assume that not all people that are actually unemployed report to the state about this status. So we can assume that the real unemployment figure might be higher than this. But if you would ask me, low unemployment is one of the factors in Russia. The second figure that springs into the eye is the very high university rate of more than 30% of the workforce. So this means that nearly 1 in 3 persons in the Russian workforce has a university degree. This is an extremely high figure compared also to other countries. And by a contrast, and Stefan also talked about this, we have a deficit in skilled worker supply. So this is one of the shortcomings, basically, of the Russian education system for a number of reasons, which I cannot, now talk about in detail. The vocational training in Russia is very unpopular, so not many people go for this. So this is a lack in figures, basically, but it's also a lack in quality. So this is what our clients tell us. Especially if it comes to manufacturing. So you will have a hard time, to find ready trained people who are ready to work in a modern plant in Russia. And from a HR perspective, this means it is hard to find people at the first. And then you will have to invest quite a lot of time and money, basically, to make people then fit to work in a modern manufacturing environment. Another factor which is specific for Russia is the big difference in compensation levels. So I will show this in the next slide. So, just as one factor. One positive aspect that speaks for the Russian HR market is the low income taxation. So we are talking about a flat tax of 13% in most cases. So this is really very, attractive if compared to other countries, and also the wage levels due to the depreciation of the ruble compared to the euro, but also to the dollar, makes Russia now quite attractive with regarding to cost of labor. Even if you look at the countries like China, for instance. So these are a few basic factors. So I talked about remuneration levels in Russia. So if you take Moscow as a benchmark, you would say Moscow is 100%. Then in St. Petersburg, you have roughly a compensation level of 75%, or it's here 77%, and then the rest of Russia is roughly half the level of Moscow. Just to give you a basic understanding. So Moscow by far the most expensive place in Russia, but most of the companies start their activities here basically in Moscow for good reasons. So which I probably don't have to explain here. So if you would ask me, what trends do we have currently on the Russian labor market? So that's, of course, a very broad question, also a very broad topic. So you could probably name many more trends, but I will just talk briefly about 4. So the most important one is Corona, of course. So this is the factor which is not only important here in Russia, but in all countries of the world. But we also must say that many countries are now emerging from this Corona situation. So if we talk about Western Europe, I don't want to say that the situation is back to normal. That's not true. Especially if you now look at Germany, so the figures now rise again. So there's now the 4th wave, and there might be a 5th wave, let's say. But the consequences differ because the vaccination rate in those countries is very high. And for reasons which you probably know much better than I do, I don't fully grasp them. In Russia, it is still very low. And as we are speaking, Corona, of course, is still a factor. So we had this, I would say, pseudo lockdown last week, at least in Moscow. And we can, of course, not be sure that this will be the end of the story. Probably we need to expect that the Corona impact in the Russian HR market will last on also to next year, which makes it extremely tough for companies to plan, basically. So this is one period of uncertainty from this Corona perspective. The second trend that is there, and Stefan mentioned it, he named it as one of the major problems that he's now at this moment facing, is the blue-collar workforce deficit. 2 of the reasons Stefan talked about it quickly. So one, of course, is the lack of migrant workers. So the people who are usually here in Moscow, especially in Eastern St. Petersburg from Central Asia, are not here, or not as many as there were in pre-pandemic times. And the same is also true for other countries like Belarus and so on. We don't know, when these people will be back here fully. So when this problem will resolved, and we also heard about the increased competition by companies like Yandex Food, which then basically, as we just learned, pay much more than Stefan does. And this is, why Stefan has now this lack of people. No, okay, but being more serious, this is really a major problem that many companies now face at this moment. Then the shift to remote work, this is the 3rd point that you see here, led to a higher, importance of IT solutions. So ERP systems, CRM systems are, of course, more important now. So if you don't see people on a daily basis, you will have to implement, some CRM system, to monitor more closely what the people are doing. And this is, of course, a factor which also then drove the demand for IT specialists last year and also this year. So this is an ongoing trend. And so when we will go back to office, if at all, so we'll talk about that in a minute, we will see. But so this is the 3rd trend that is going on. And the 4th trend, I would say, is basically a long-term trend, which we see in international companies working in Russia, but also in local companies, so that the management styles in the organizations change. So in the good old days, you had one boss in his room, and let's say then his people around him. But when people work remote, you need to be more trustful, and the whole basically style of interaction, with the employees changes. So we see that companies are getting more dynamic these days, which is probably also a good impact, basically, of the Corona situation. So these are 4 trends. I know that there are many more. I just want to give you some food for thought and also food for the discussion, basically, which we have after our speeches. Maybe just 2 words about what we are doing on a daily basis. So we are in executive search. So we mainly work for Western European companies in Russia. We work only on C-level searches. So we look for CEOs, we look for CFOs, CSOs. And if you would ask me what is the most important requirement that companies look for in their senior staff in Russia, then I would answer the bridge function between the Russian market on the one hand side and the European headquarter on the other side. So we need people who are able to be successful in Russia, so who speak Russian, who know the market, who know the clients, who know how to work in the country, but who at the same time are able to integrate in an international organization and to understand how a Western or how a European company basically ticks. So this is the most important criteria. Of course, you also need the hard skills. You need to know your product and so on. But this is the major soft skill that candidates need to bring. So how do we find these people? So these people are rare. So you usually don't find the right people by job ads. So we apply the so-called headhunting method, which means that we identify and approach potential candidates in the market, and then try to convince them to listen to the offer that our client has to make. Of course, expatriates can be an option if you think about senior roles in Russia. So, I don't want to read out now this whole slide to you, so you can, look through this with one eye yourself. Just want to say that the expat model is basically declining and has been for many years. So back in the 90s, it was quite common, for a European company to send over somebody from the headquarters, to go to Russia, to set up an office, to found a company. This was because back in the 90s, it was impossible to find people in Russia who could, work in an international structure. But of course, over the last 30 years, you have plenty of local talent, you can work with. And then this expatriate model, of course, is on its way back. And it has been for many years, of course, 2014, 2015 was one booster for this. So many people basically left Russia. And the pandemic situation made it also quite painful, for expats to work in Russia. All the back and forth and Sputnik vaccination and QR codes and so on, travel bans make it quite complicated, basically, now to work here. So we can say expatriate model is still there in special contexts, which you can see here on the slide. And there is one, I would say, way of combining sometimes the best of both worlds. This would be the local expats. So this would be people who have moved to Russia for good, who live in Russia, speak Russian, and are also mostly willing to work on the basis of a local employment contract, so that you don't have all these social security issues. Yeah, so these are people who would basically working like a Russian in Russia. And how to do this, we will learn about this later, as far as I understand. So the work visa and work permit stuff we'll cover later. Good. Then rounding off, I will very briefly then talk about the survey which I mentioned. So the joint survey with the CCBLR. So you see that more than 80%, so 4 in 5 of the respondents of the surveys are based in Russia, which does not mean that all of them are Russian. So a few experts also took part, but most of them are. We had more than 110 respondents when we closed the survey, so quite a good figure, I would say. And as I said, the survey was recently, so it was closed in early November, basically. So if we look at the results now, so the first question we asked, has there been an increase in companies' revenues in comparison with 2020? Maybe a bit surprising that 65% of the people we polled said yes. So the turnover 21 was higher than 2020, which is, I would say, a surprisingly good figure, basically. Now, roughly 20% 20% said it was about the same level, and only, I think, 15% said that the turnovers decreased. So I would say that is a very positive finding of this. The forecast for next year is even better. So we see that nearly 70%, I think it's 68%, of people see a further increase next year. So the trend arrow is really going up now. Roughly 20% say it will be on the same levels. So I would say that's a very strong figures. So and only 11%, if I'm not mistaken, say it will be less. So the outlook for next year, for reasons which we didn't ask for now in this survey, seems to be quite optimistic. This, of course, also means that the companies will be hiring. So 55% of the companies said, yes, we will increase headcount, so we will bring new people on the board. Less than 40% no, and just a few companies are going to decrease headcounts next year. So this is the planning. So, or let's say the expectation. It's, of course, not a plan written in stone. As I said, planning Russia now at this moment, as in most countries, is not so easy. Corona impact next year will be still high. So more than 60% of respondents say yes, Corona will be with us still next year. Yeah, so nobody really expects that this will change soon. I think that's clear. And this also, speaks into the same direction. Roughly 68% of the companies at the moment have hybrid work, so a combination of remote and presence work. And 65% of the companies don't expect that all of the employees will be back in the office next year. So remote work is something which is going to stay, for the foreseeable future. And this is the expectation of most people. And then rounding off, so because we also talked about salaries, more than 60% of the polled companies will increase salaries according to the official inflation rate, which is now at the moment slightly more than 7%. Yeah, so this would be the expectation. A bit more than 25% expect that the levels will be the same, so there will be no increase, which of course de facto means that the people will earn less. Yeah, so that's that we also need to understand, and also only roughly 5% expect significant increases in compensation next year. Yeah, so this was my tour de force to the HR topic. So I hope that I was able to touch a few interesting topics, and with these more or less positive results of our survey, I will hand the word then back to Oleg. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Christian. It was very short but very complete in your presentation. Thank you very much. And it's true that we have also some requests from our members, and we noted that there is also some increase in the time of preparing actually the documents for the work permits in Russia, for visum, etc. And I will pass the floor to Erzhena Kharmaeva, the senior lawyer of Juralink. Erzhena, please, can you explain us what's happened today really with the working permits in Russia, with the authorization to entering, with all the COVID situation, with the certification, etc.?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for invitation. Christian, thank you for a very interesting presentation. It was really useful, very interesting to get to familiarize with this survey results. Well, today, I have a presentation, I forgot. Just a second. I will speak today about, do you see it or not? No?
You just have to, but you know, the share screen, and then you choose the file.
Yes, I know. And now? Now
Yes.
it's fine?
Yes.
Now it's there. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. And today I will talk about introduction into migration legislation in Russia. And I will try to explain the basics, so you know what it is and how it works. Normally, in order the foreigner have a legal status in Russia, you have several options, either to be employed officially or to come on the basis of a different kind of a visa, or to have a residence permit. Well, I will start with the official employment. It's possible by concluding an employment or civil contract with a Russian company. In this case, the foreigner obtains permit. They are patent, simple work permit, or HQS working permit. So what is the difference? We will see. The first one is a patent. Patent is granted only for citizens of countries with the visa-free regime. It is granted, this document is granted only for 1 year. These people shall undergo medical examination and to pass exams, Russian language, history, and legislation basics also. Yes, the main difference between this patent and other working permits is that the foreigner shall personally go to the immigration authorities and to submit the documents. So this person make all the documents himself. Then we go to work permit. It's a so-called simple work permit. It is also granted for 1 year, but for citizens of the countries with visa regime. Well, although it is granted only for 1 year, it's not so easy to obtain it, because first of all, the employer shall receive special permission to employ foreigners, and also these foreigners also shall undergo the same medical examinations and exams, and in general, it takes 3 months to obtain such a work permit. So it's not really a good option. But for non-commercial organizations, that is the only option, unfortunately. HQS working permit is not possible for them. And by the way, for these people, the work visa is also needed. Well, let's move to the most popular one. It's HQS working permit, or highly qualified specialist work permit. The main advantage of such working permit is that it's quite fast to obtain it, about 1 month. It can be granted for 3 years, and also family members can get the same term visas. So it's very, very convenient. The only requirement is the salary. The salary shall not be less than 2 million rubles per year, and also the employer shall notify migration authorities on such salary payment quarterly. It means that even though the person is not working, or for any reason like a vacation, or the person is ill, the employer still shall notify that he paid the employee 500,000 rubles in 3 months. So that is the real requirement, and it is a question to the employer how he will pay it, either as a salary or as a bonus. I think that, well, but still, we just heard several rumors and talks that soon this limit will be increased, because this set limit of 2 million was set really, really a long time ago. And it is time to increase this amount, because a lot of people who are not really highly qualified, they use this structure, they use these working permits and just work with such permission. Then we have the last permit is a residence permit, or VNG in Russian. This is very interesting kind of a permit, we think, and that is a great permit for those who really lives in Russia. For example, for those who have families in Russia, or in future they plan to receive Russian citizenship, it's a good permit really for them, because the person has almost the same rights as a Russian citizen. They are like, the person can work without any permission documents. The person can be registered as an individual entrepreneur, for example, if he doesn't want to open a legal entity, or the business is not so big, he wants to be just well, IP. And of course, the option of obtainment of citizenship. There are two options to obtain it. One is a longer way, and the second is a so-called faster way. The longer way, there is a in between, there also a certain permission, like temporary residence permit. First, you receive this document, and in 6 months, you can apply for residence permit. The second option is HQS residence permit. If you get this HQS work permit, you can immediately apply for residence permit. But there is a little, no, I would not say it's strict, but the residence permit is granted only for the period of validity of your working permit, so for 3 years. So when it is expired, you need to prolong it. So that is, I think that is enough with permissions. Let's move to also good theme is visas, invitation letters. There are plenty types, a lot of types of visas in Russia applicable, but I think that today the main important and interesting business visa and maintenance work visa. I think that you all know about business visa, that it is for business purposes, for negotiations, meetings, conferences, forums, etc. It is possible to make it 1 year with multiple entries, really one of the best visas ever. For European people, you can just make a simple invitation letter on the letterhead of the inviting company, and it is enough. For other countries like UK or USA or India or other, the procedure a little bit different. You need to apply to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and well, it is a little bit longer, but still, all is feasible. And then maintenance work visa. Well, it's quite a new type. It's quite a new type. It's it appears during the pandemic. This visa is for workers who install or make maintenance for maintenance of the imported equipment. So you need to apply to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and actually the buyer of this equipment shall apply for such invitation letters. You need to provide, first of all, the contract, supply contract, and to show, if needed, the connection between the specialist and the supplier, foreign supplier. Well, it is really time consuming to receive such a visa, because you collect all the documents first, and then it's time for making such invitation letter, and then with this invitation letter, foreigners shall make this visa. I heard that in Germany, it takes 21 days to make a visa with the invitation letter. It's quite a long procedure. And with all this, the duration of such visa is only 3 months and single entry. And now we really have a problem with clients who need urgently to install the supplied equipment, and there are delays because of this. So if you plan in future to install, to conclude supply contracts, you have to think in advance how to make, maybe to make a duly schedule or logistics, something with your people, because normally workers do not want really to stay in Russia for 3 months in a row. They previously come for 3 weeks and then back home for 1 week. And now it's not possible. So either there should be a certain rotation of the specialists or something. We don't know, maybe something will have changed, but now it is how it is. But we just heard recently, and this is so funny because suppliers, they're trying to convince us that no, it's possible to make a double entry visa. We know that somebody received double entry, you are not right. We are really talking with Minister of Internal Affairs. They confirmed that it's not true. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe. But I haven't seen, when I asked to show me such invitation letter for technical purpose, I didn't receive it. And here I can add one more thing, is that a lot of people just use business visa for technical purposes. We highly recommend not to do so because the fines are quite high. For the supplier of the equipment, there are no fines at all. The foreigners maybe will be deported for sure, but all fines are for the buyer, the Russian company. And the fines are very high. It's 1 million ruble per one person, and activity suspension of the company for 90 days. Yes, so we do not recommend to do so. Just do it correctly if you are the buyer of such equipment. Yes, and I will finalize my speech with the changes to immigration legislation. We expect them in December. They are fingerprint registration and photographing plus medical examination. If fingerprint registration and photographing is more or less clear, medical examination, we have questions to medical examination, because it says that you undergo medical examination, first of all, when you come to Russia and you receive your working permit. And then in 30 days, within 30 days after your medical certificates are expired. Normally, we have a rule that medical certificates are valid for 90 days. It means that a foreign employee shall undergo these medical examinations 3 times a year. We are waiting for any clarifications. We are waiting for an official document. We are all very curious about it because we are concerned. We have our clients, we have our foreign colleagues, and we are really worried about them. We do not want to make their life difficult. We, on the contrary, we want to make their life easier, I would say. So, but we'll see. That is all. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, just let me know. I will be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Erzhena. Our high qualified specialists will make medical exams, more they will be healthy, I believe. And also I was very surprised because when you described the procedure to obtain the patent, it's practically the same like in Luxembourg to obtain the citizenship. You have to pass the language exam and the cultural historical exam. But okay, it's a little bit different. And then I was also on one side happy that there is some evolution in the visum delivering in Russia. It's quite fast and quite easy today. And I will pass the floor with happiness to Philippe Borremans and Jimbao Feng. I'm correct? I hope.
Absolutely.
To describe us and how it happens today in Belgium. Are it same way easy or not easy?
I'm gonna share my screen. There you go. I hope you're able to see it. So, pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you all. I'm the head of the international department of Group S. Group S is a payroll provider in Belgium. As you might very well know, labor laws in Belgium are quite tricky, and payroll providers were created in order to help employers deal with all the payroll and the labor laws, which are changing quite often. So what are the services we're offering in order to help enterprises? But basically everything from starting your company to calculating the payroll. So we've got a business portal for self-employed workers and enterprises. We're an accredited, which is very important, payroll provider by the Belgian state for the social and tax authorities. We also have a social insurance fund for the self-employed, and also a child benefit fund, which is called Kids Life. So we're present all over Belgium. That's briefly, well, a short view of all our offices. And now down to the topic. So if you want to start your activities in Belgium, you have many obligations you have to follow. Considering the short period of time I've got, I will not go into detail about the Belgian calculation of the payroll. If some of you are interested, I will be more than delighted to send them information, PowerPoints or whatever, and explain the Belgian system. What you very first need to know when you hire staff in Belgium and when you want to start your company, you will have to do the very first step, which is register yourself to a Crossroad Bank for enterprises in order to get an enterprise number. This is the very first step. Whatever your activities, you will have to register to the Crossroad Bank for Enterprises. You will then receive an enterprise number that will allow you to start your activity and to hire staff. So if the legal representative of the company, which is the case for Russian entrepreneurs, is a non-EU citizen, he will need to ask for a professional card to work in Belgium. You can apply and ask for such card at the diplomatic representations, enterprise counters, etc., etc. So that's the very first step. When you want to hire employees, of course, once you've got your enterprise number, you will need to register to the Belgian Social Security and the Minister of Finance. The payroll provider that you will choose in Belgium will do it for you. The company also will need to apply for a work permit, basically a single permit for non-EU employees, especially if they will stay more than 90 days. Once this step is accomplished, the next one is actually to register your employees and link them to your company. That implies that you will have to register a DMLA declaration with the Belgian Social Security that will actually link your employee to the company. When this is done, of course, there are many mandatory obligations that you will have to follow. You will have to have a workers' compensation insurance provided by an insurance broker located in Belgium, which is very important, actually, from the very first day you're going to hire your workers. So before you hire your workers, you will need to have a workers' compensation insurance just in case your employees would have an accident. This is indeed a mandatory obligation. Another obligation implemented by the government is that you will have to register to an external prevention and protection service, which is actually a fancy name to describe the fact that your workers will have to undergo a medical exam yearly if it's blue-collar workers, every 3 to 4 years if it's white collar workers. Another mandatory step, of course, if you want to hire employees, will be to have a work regulation. Usually your payroll provider will provide one for you, which will actually basically give you the basic regulations that you will need to have within your organization. So, of course, Russia, in Belgium, of course, for foreign countries, especially from far away, you will have expats. So, in case you've got expats, you will have to register a limosa for each expat that you will have. You will also have to provide an A1 form stating actually that the person is already under the Russian social security system. Next step also, you will have to ask for a Belgian work permit, fundamentally a single permit for the Russian expat. And with that, you will have to follow a few regulations and mandatory obligations. So there is a minimum yearly gross salary to be followed, actually, and it's based also, the single permit, which is quite recent, is also linked to the regions. So you will have to apply to each region in Belgium, so Flanders, Wallonia and Brussels, in order to get your single permit. So as you can see on the table, the small table we've got here, you can ask for a higher skilled single permit in Brussels. The minimum gross salary is 44,000 euros. You can see it's slightly different in Flanders, and we're still waiting for the latest available amount in Wallonia. For an executive single permit, as you can see, it's a lot higher. So it's 73,000 euros in Brussels, roughly, and 72 roughly in Flanders. Same story for Wallonia. Another option also, after a few years, or if you want to follow EU regulations, you can also ask for a blue card, and you can see it's around 54,000 euros for Brussels and Flanders. Something very important also to know during the expatriation period is that the employer and employee social contributions are exempted. So you're exempted of such contributions in Belgium during the time of the expatriation. So when it comes also to the employee income tax, well, it's linked to the double tax treaty between Russia and Belgium. And if some of you have some question about it, we'll be more than happy to send it to you and give you information about it. Considering I only had 10 minutes, that's really a short version of what I was planning to talk about. What I can also talk to you about is the tax shift. In Belgium, considering actually it's quite costly to hire staff, the Belgian government did implement a few measures in order to make things easier for the employer and the employee. So in Belgium, for the first 6 workers, you will have a reduction of the basic contributions, which is quite useful. It's a total reduction of the basic contributions for the first worker. And I can send, for those who would like to have more information, also a table with the reductions for the other workers. So this is very popular, and this was implemented by the Belgian government in order to boost actually foreign companies to hire staff in Belgium. Something I could also really quickly talk about, yeah, the clock is ticking, is actually fringe benefits. So once again, fringe benefits are still quite popular in Belgium. So it is quite common for employers to give meal vouchers, company cars, and other fringe benefits to Belgian workers in order to dodge the bullet and pay less taxes, while giving some benefits to your employee. So in a nutshell, that was really what we wanted to talk about. 10 minutes is a very short period of time. If some of you want to know more about the structure of the payroll and also the tax and contributions linked to the calculation of the payroll, you will find here our contact details. Feel free to contact us. It will be a pleasure to help you. So thank you so much, and feel free to ask questions at the Q&A. We'll be more than delighted to answer it.
Thank you, Philippe. It was already quite complicated, as I understand, to find the workers, to find the job too. It's very complicated to work, to obtain all the visum and work permits in Russia, and in Belgium is also very, very complicated, as I understand. I am very, very happy that we have beyond our members the specialists who can help and provide this kind of services. We will pass to the Q&A session, to the question and the commenter. Maybe we have some volunteers.
I can have maybe a question, a remark, one for Erzhena, one for Christian. Christian, you mentioned in the beginning there's a very low unemployment rate in Russia, and okay, not everybody is registered, but I think also a lot of people who are registered as unemployed, they are working. There is still a big gray economy, so I think even people are not working is maybe even lower. There's a 4.6%. Is this correct, my assumption, or not?
Yes, of course, it is very hard to say, of course. So you are talking about the shadow economy, basically, in Russia. Yeah? So if you read about this, you will find estimates that the shadow economy could account for 30 or 40% of the official Russian GDP, which would be a massive figure, of course. Of course, these are only estimates, but of course, you're right. So somebody will work in the shadow economy. So in undocumented labor, basically. So getting, the money in an envelope, maybe in construction or somewhere else, so this is where we see this, of course. And so the official unemployment figure is, the figure we work with, the figure we live by, but what does it really say in the end? Who knows? Yeah, so it's really hard to say. Yeah?
Okay, yes, thanks. And maybe for Erzhena, I think you talked about work visa and then this new maintenance visa, but wasn't not more put in place at the moment the borders were closed? Because now, I don't know, I know that for Belgium, we can get a visa quite easily now to travel to Russia, but during the 1 year ago when the borders were closed, this maintenance visa was, let's say, the only opportunity for a German or for a Belgian to go to Russia, because really to do maintenance or to install a machine, is it not more, because today Russia is still closed for certain countries or not, and is this then still a solution to get into Russia?
Yes, basically, yes, it was the only possibility, but previously it was, I forgot to mention that it is quite new, because now they call it work visa. Previously it was a business visa for technical purposes. So yes, it's true, previously it was possible to make it 1 year with multiple entries. It was so fast to do, but then when they made this change, it's still possible to visit the country, but the procedure is really, really long. So you have to spend a lot of time to obtain such invitation letter, and then if your company is closed to Russia, if the air service is closed, so then you have to wait.
Thanks.
Oleg, if it's possible, I would like to comment on Stefan's issues. My name is Longe, and I work in executive search company, Peterson Partners. So of course, blue collars are out of our scope, but I can just share the approach or the tips of some companies which have exactly the same headache as you. If you would take some huge Russian retail chains, they have, of course, also the problem of paying the decent salaries and the problem of retention. So what they have done, they understood that they cannot offer high salaries because their effort is huge, because they employ, perhaps thousands of hundreds of thousands of people. So they just changed the approach of considering candidates. So they just were targeting some candidates who would become somehow captive employees. Some categories of employees who are living basically close to the workplace, yes, and for whom it will be convenient, the shifts, and also, of course, the location. So it would compensate somehow the low or not so high salary, So because they will value perhaps much more this possibility, not spending much time, in transportation and some flexibility on working hours and so on. So because in Russia, you have very many women rising along their kids. So for them, it's very important to be close to the work and to be able to get flexible working hours. So they are somehow able to work for lower salary, but getting these very important points. And for warehouses, we know that it's not very important nowadays, but it's young men, very strong because very many things are automized. And regarding the second topic, you told that you do not want to compromise on people you hire. So I cannot agree with 100%, of course, because we mainly, not mainly, but only deal with very senior positions. But even there, we have shortage of, the right level people in Russia. Despite we already have these multinationals on the Russian ground for years, and who have trained quite well the local managers. Still, we do not have so much choice, for more senior positions. So I think the most realistic approach is just to start with the people who are able to solve your concrete, specific business case. Not having some just lines in the job description and sticking 100% to this. Otherwise, you will have your job ads hanging there for years. Of course, if you want 100% this kind of people, but just considering people who are able to solve your business case. It will be more effort consuming for your HRs, of course, for your recruiters, because they will have to consider more people and more interviews just to figure out, and you have to make some assessments, to be sure that these people are able to solve your case. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot. I think it's a very valid input, and of course, I also know to find an ideal candidate, it's quite impossible. I'm also far from ideal for my job, but it's more like if you're even looking for somebody to solve your case, if you're doubting, then always do a no. The moment you start doubting on the candidate, then our principle is a no. Then to say, okay, but it's urgent. So, but like you said, you can also go a bit more specific to solve your case than to go for all the job description lines. So, no, that's correct. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Stefan, we have one hand raised. Tatiana. Tatiana, can you unmute, please, your microphone?
We don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your invitation for this interesting conference, because the subject is very actual for these times. And my question is to Erzhena. It was very important information because I was dealing with such a kind of cases in the near past. And it was already discussed about how is possible to exchange maintenance work visa with a different type of visas. But haven't heard, is it possible to just simply take work permit for this kind of people who is coming with the commercial purposes as a suppliers?
Yes, it is an option. If the buyer is ready to employ such specialists, yes, it is possible. But I don't know, I don't remember any such kind of practice.
Because
but it's possible.
More time or more money?
I would say it's a question to the workers, because they here is a question also about taxes.
Okay.
Yes, double taxation. If they will work here, and probably they will still work abroad. So that is another question. The salary amount, of course, which kind of working permit they would like to use. If the buyer of the equipment would like to employ these people. So a lot of questions to be considered, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
Alex, I see there are more people waving.
Yeah, but I know that Demid is there connected. Demid, please activate your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for me. Well, I've got a different kind of question. I'm not a professional myself yet, but I'm currently I'm currently coming from a different side of the same thing, which is the job research in Belgium, and particularly in Brussels, since I've just graduated from EU and international trade studies. And I'm currently finding myself in a sort of a gray zone, you see. My question, I think this is my kind of testimony, my kind of witness, what I've lived in Brussels as a young professional looking for opportunities. But probably, and the question is basically for the whole panel, and probably more specifically to Mr. Borremans, as he is professionally working with Belgian employment law. So my question is about my legal situation. You see, I find myself well qualified from a good university, but still I see that EU market, specifically Belgian market, is, well, let's say less friendly to graduates than I felt in Russia, as a matter of fact. So people expect me to have spent a couple of years on internships. And so, but anyhow, I've got these new visa, new permit by the Belgian state, a new law passed last August, and I have my research year to search, for my job research year. And my question is, well, two parts of the questions. Given that I've currently find myself in that gray zone, I don't know if I'm, too qualified, not enough qualified, probably well qualified, but don't have enough experience. Is that correct? Do you feel that the current market dynamics, are close to what I'm feeling now, not, particularly ready to hire young professionals in that area? And secondly, is my situation, my legal situation in Belgium, as I'm currently in Belgium now, any different from a Russian living in Russia, from a Russian, graduate, young specialist living now currently in Russia, since I have that job research permit? Does it change an employer's look at me as a potential candidate, as a potential employee. Well, that's it. I hope I've been clear about that and my questions. And thank you.
Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you for your question. First of all, I should mention that we're hiring and we're very keen to hire graduates, just for you to know. But on a more serious note, so if I understand properly, your first question is about your degree on the Belgian market, and the second is more work permit oriented. So for the first question, I would say yes and no, actually. But basically, companies are quite keen to hire graduates. So I don't know what predicament or what actually difficulties you faced, but I think still you have now a very good opportunity to perform on the Belgian market. That's my theory, at least. When it comes to the work permit, I will give the word to my colleague Jimbo, because he's more dedicated to it. And would you be so kind to repeat your question regarding your second question?
My second question is about my current permit. You see, I've just graduated from the College of Europe in Bruges, and at the end of my studies, the Belgian state has offered me 9 months, the possibility, let's say, an opportunity to apply for the same kind of permit, which is just a kind of verblijfstitel. They call a permit for a 9 month permit for a job research in Belgium. So that gives me a bittersweet feeling, because as far as I understand, I have a different legal situation, different from just a Russian graduate living in Russia. I have the legal ability. I'm legally able to be in Belgium, to live there, and I'm now registering. I'm going through that process, and as far as I feel that I expect that you know how tricky it could be, but I don't know. While the Belgian state says, well, you're now able to apply for jobs, while I'm talking, and I've been through I think 10, well, more than 10, about 20 interviews now, talking to potential employers. They say, well, you live in Belgium. What are you doing now? What's your situation?
Current status.
You see, I don't know what to say. Well, I have an opportunity to be here, to live here. I don't have an opportunity to earn my living, though, which is, I think, well, that's a good thing that now finally Belgium state has passed that law. The Belgian legislation has passed that law, but yet I find myself in a gray zone position. I can live here. I can live in Belgium. I can register myself officially in Belgium. Yet the procedure isn't clear enough. People have no idea, not in the commune, not in the communities. Brussels Home Affairs Ministry has never answered me, and when I speak to a potential employer that is, that worries about, its cost, the cost of hiring me, the cost of hiring me, and asking me, what's your situation? Are we going to register you as a Russian student, whoever? I say, well, I've got this, but I don't know if it changes anything. So that is, could you, if you've got any ideas, that I'd be really grateful to just to know more about that. Thank you very much. Just to know more about what you think about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Actually, I totally understand your situation. And as mentioned by my colleague in the presentation, so all the non-EU citizen who wants to work in Belgium needs to apply a single permit. So the single permit, as you can see, there is a minimum salary. So it's already, let's say, roughly something like €3,200 per month. for the employer. So that is why you mentioned it's quite cost for the employer. That is true. That is true for young graduates. But if I understand correctly, for you, you are still a Russian passport, Russian citizen, and you live here with a Russian passport. So that is if one company, a Belgian company or whatever, a Dutch company wants to hire you to work in Belgium, and this company needs to apply the single permit for you and to meet the minimum salary requirement. That is a must, because without this single permit, you cannot work in Belgium, unfortunately. So that is the main reason. I think a lot of employers or interviews you had, the employers, they ask your current situation to see what kind of passport you have. Maybe that is maybe the issue, to see if you need a work permit. So, and for young graduates, I can give you a minimum salary, for example. In Belgium, the minimum salary, gross salary per month is roughly something like 1,600, something like that. For a young graduate, that is a full-time working salary. And for non-EU citizen, to meet this minimum salary, 3,200 to have the single permit, a lot of company hesitates to have it. That is true. But you are right, because you graduated from a very good university and you are very high potential young talent. I would say continue to fund it, because nothing is impossible. So continue, maybe you can find some, you are doing research in the EU level. I think you need to fund the right people, right employer for that. So I would say, but for your current situation, it's tough, it's difficult, because you need a work permit. That is reality. And but nothing is impossible.
Thank you, Jimbo. I will pass the floor to Philippe. Philippe,
Yeah.
for the question. Philippe van der Broele.
Yes, hello from Brugge. Thank you very much to the speaker. It was very interesting. I have a simple question to Erzhena. So you must know I'm active in Belarus. In Belarus, you have quite some easier procedures for work permits, for instance, in free economical zones or for certain projects. Do you have the same thing in Russia?
Well, yes, we have. That is, we so call it patent for visa-free countries. It is easy because it's not connected to a certain employer, so the person can actually receive this permit and work with any employer they want. So that is quite simple, so-called.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Philippe, Erzhena. Thank you. And I know that Valery Kuzmin is with us, and we discussed it especially this morning about the also difficult situation with employers. Valery, we hear you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. May you share a little bit your situation?
I think first of all, I work for one Union packaging company, which is a company doing packaging out of the board and paper. And our customers normally like McDonald's and Barilla using our packaging. We employ about 150 people in Moscow region. And I do share the pain of Stefan in St. Petersburg, and we have the same issue in Moscow, searching for blue-collar people. Maybe one tricky thing we have specifically for our situation is that, for example, we have a neighbor, big developing company located just behind our fence, employing about 1,500 people. And from time to time, our people just leave to the neighbor just because they get double salary from them. People like packers or forklift drivers, stuff like that. And it's very difficult, of course, to retain people having such a heavy situation with the neighbor. Therefore, I do understand what Stefan is talking about, and let's hope that situation with the labor force will stabilize next year. And for a moment, our company already doing some specific measures to retain people. and to make sure that we have enough staff for next year in a situation where we plan to continue to grow actually in the business. So thank you.
Vladimir, can I just comment again? It's not the blue collars are not in our main topic, but we work very much with companies from packaging and ink producing companies and so on in Russia, and everybody complaining about the same thing. Particularly, it's a tough situation in industrial parks and special economy zones because all the most qualified people are located there. And they just navigate between all these companies, just changing and going across the street for, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 rubles more per month. So I don't think it will change next year or in the foreseeable future, unfortunately. What I know that in many industrial parks, companies had some more or less official agreements between them, you know, so for business critical roles, at least not to take employees from each other. Of course, it's nothing written, but at least it's somehow, you know, some commitment they have at the level of HR directors and GMs of the locations. And the most complicated when it's located far from I don't know, Moscow or St. Pete. If even we had a search, for instance, this year, the location was 70 kilometers from Moscow in an industrial park, you know, and it was really a headache of finding the functions heads able to move there, or you know, from the other companies from this area. So I think the best solution also to work with universities of the closest cities, just to take some trainees, young graduates, and to try to fidelize them and to grow them internally, you know, from zero ground, perhaps, and promoting your company at this level also, because you will not able to pay more than your competition every time people leave you. So it's the same situation for everybody, and all the companies complain about this topic actually in all the regions in Russia.
Can I elaborate a bit on this just for 2 minutes, maybe to share our experience? Natalia, I'm from Pirates, and we have a factory located in Podolsk. It's 15 kilometers from Moscow, and we are surrounded with everything. There are production, big factories, there are warehouses. And you know, we also have from time to time the workers who are leaving to the neighbors. One pharma company started a big plant and they are seduced by higher salaries, by better conditions. But you know, we started to notice that what had been promised is not.
Natalia, I think you have some issue with microphone.
I think we have lost her somehow, yeah?
Yeah, but that is the remote reality. Stefan said.
No,
we can have some musical intermezzo.
Yes, Edwin, you're good in that. No, I think I have good news for Vladimir and bad news for Julie. I always think positive. And to make a positive note, in 10 years, all the blue collars are replaced by robots. And in 10 years, all the white collars are replaced by artificial intelligence. And all the problem is solved. And we can relax at home doing nothing. That's, you know, you should always think positive, you know, and for sure, artificial intelligence will help us, robots will help us, automation will help us. So, you know, innovation at the end is a solution to many challenges. So let's hope for that. Huh?
Yeah, good. Then we will all go to holidays. There will not be any more place in the hotels, and there will be not enough staff in the hotels again.
Yes. Okay.
Then we will thank all of you to participate with us today in this. Oh, Natalia, she just lost the connection. She wrote me by WhatsApp. Dear members, friends, colleagues, thank you very much again. If you maybe there is no more comments, I believe we're practically right at time. And what I would like to add today, I would like to ask you, those who are in Belgium and Luxembourg especially, to save the date of the 13th December. I just received a few minutes from Philippe the good news that we will organize our annual reception. It will be not maybe so big and how to say, a large reception as we usually organize it before in Brussels, but it will be good and very well reception for around 100 people offered by our members company Group S, and me and Stefan. We will be very happy to see all of you present on our reception on 13th of December.
Great.
Philippe, you wish to add something? You activate your microphone, I think.
No. It's just going to be a pleasure to welcome everybody and to finally be able to see everybody, not through a camera or whatever, but in real life.
For sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Oleg.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Well,
thank you, Stefan, Christian, Erzhena. Thank you, Philippe, Zimbabwe. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you very much.
All of you to your participation. Thank you, Dimit, to Valery. Roman connected too, I saw, yes. But he left already. But he was on the way. I think he's in the train to Petersburg.
Okay.
Oh, Natalia are reconnected.
I was kicked out.
Natalia, sorry, we
didn't like your remark. We didn't like your remark. Delete.
Yes, I was thinking maybe somebody listening to what I was going to tell and cut me.
Yes.
Alex, thank you. It was really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. Daniel disappeared immediately too. Okay, Natalia, then.
The day. I will tell you next time.
For sure. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you on Tuesday then.
Yes, Tuesday in Moscow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.